happy that I was able to like find a natural stopping point in it for a change and not just have it peter out the way these theme songs tend to.
As long as there's good music in the opening, I don't care how it.
Yeah.
Do we want to do like a little? Are we going to do the little best of 2016 in this one?
I'm still not ready for that. I thought I was, and this will segue into our usual segment. I thought I would be ready, but I have not seen Scorsese's new movie yet. And my friend saw it and told me it was incredible.
I can't remember when that comes out here in Columbus.
Okay.
Tis the Hack Fraud Show!
Yay, welcome. Hello, everybody. Anyway, as I was saying, just to quickly go into what we've been watching lately, before we dive into our main attraction this week, which is Hayao Miyazaki.
The master himself.
Yes. But anyway, as I was saying, I thought I had my best of 2016 list pretty firmed up, and then I saw The Handmaiden yesterday, and
yeah, I've heard nothing but praise from videos about that.
I think it's my new number one for the year. I really liked it. Reed and Warner,
I would rush out to see it if I could.
Reed and Warner, you'll both hate it, so don't bother.
I've heard it's got a lot of sex.
There is
about women's sexuality.
There is so much sex in this movie. That's not why I liked it, to be clear. Although I do think it does have some interesting things to say about sexuality and about sex. It's very interesting.
Well, sex is just an interesting topic.
That's true. I will say this: the sex scenes in it do give "Blue is the Warmest Color" a run for its money. So that's all I'll say. But The Handmaiden, great, twisty, turny, very fun movie. I really enjoyed it. So that's that.
The idiots have had nothing but praise for that, and Movie Bob named it one of his best of the year. So.
Okay. I watched several movies this week. I flew American Airlines for the first time in my life, and they have free movies, so I did partake of that. I'll just run through these quickly. This was not on the plane, but I watched George Clooney's The Ides of March. Which
okay, I'm gonna say this because this movie was made in 2011, right?
Yes.
2011. This is 3 years into the Obama administration.
Yes.
We are just about the reign in the Trump era. How does this movie hold up?
It's interesting. Well, here's what's interesting about it. For like the first 2 acts, it's really like that big like 2-hour episode of The West Wing that we've always wanted, which I really enjoyed.
Kind of the American president.
And then the third act takes a very strange turn that I was kind of not on board with, and other than that, I really enjoyed it. The performances are all solid.
That's Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, and I actually do really like George Clooney as a director. One of his other movies, Good Night and Good Luck, I really like.
Oh, Good Night and Good Luck is great.
But that movie's interesting. I don't know. That is not a movie that is in any way like can be or should be held up to like as to scrutinize the Trump era.
No.
But
it wasn't intended for that.
Yeah,
in no way could it be.
It's a fun little movie. And then let's see, keeping in with the George Clooney theme, I also saw Alexander Payne's The Descendants, which I really enjoyed.
I need to see more Alexander Payne. He's a director that's interested.
I like. I've also seen Nebraska, which I really liked. He has a way of making movies that almost kind of feel inconsequential, like while you're watching them, but then when you finish them, you're like, oh, that was really good.
Like, you think about it, you go, oh, wait a minute. it's got that weird, it kind of lulls you in a sense of insecurity.
Yeah. So that movie was very good. I saw Midnight Special.
We finally got around to that.
Which is fine. It's
That's what I
man.
was fearing with that.
I have never seen a movie that was so committed to keeping viewers in the dark, and man, it does not pay off.
I like mystery. I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of people
Oh,
like mystery.
I do too.
But a movie specifically made to keep you in the dark, to keep you guessing, doesn't usually turn out well.
Yeah.
And like all the trailers, the trailers seem fascinating, but from everything I've heard, it's just not very fulfilling.
Yeah. And then I guess to kind of segue into the main attraction here, this was not one of the movies we were assigned for this week, but John and I saw a big screening of Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke.
That was kind of... I've never seen a Miyazaki movie on the big screen. And that was just... Well, we saw it at the Marcus on the edge of the Outer Belt, and they played one of Miyazaki's music videos before the screening.
Yeah.
And that was a surreal experience. And a surprisingly full theater.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how many people were in that.
That movie did show me one thing, because we saw the Japanese version with subtitles, and that movie, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I might like his movies more with the subtitled versions as opposed to the dubbed versions.
Okay, that is not uncommon. A lot of people prefer the subtitled versions because it's the original voice actors.
Yeah.
And it's the people that Miyazaki handpicked for the roles.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to that. I'm kind of just of the opinion of, like, if they dubbed it well, I'll watch that. If they didn't, I'm going to watch the subtitle. I'm kind of really loosey-goosey.
Well, my thing is that what I found is, like, the voice acting in a lot of these movies, with the American ones, is, like, really kind of stilted. Like, weirdly, like, the voice acting, like, even, like...
Spirited Away is particularly egregious in that.
Not even so much that, like, even the two we watched this weekend, because of, just because of your promised Christian Bale doing his Batman voice, I watched the Howl's Moving Castle dubbed version. I watched these both. I watched these both in the dubbed versions, but I watched the Howl's Moving Castle dubbed specifically because of that.
3 seconds of Christian Bale Batman voice.
Well, okay, John, you totally oversold that. I thought he was going to be, like, spending the whole movie doing like this.
I oversold you that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Christian Bale.
Howl.
Like Howl. There's a point where, like, he's in the cave and he's in the big bird form. He's just, you're too late.
Yeah, that was...
Ever heard the
well, he spends the whole movie doing his, like, Bruce Wayne voice.
It's just that's just his American voice, is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. I think the emotionality of the Japanese voice actors, I think, works a little better. And, like, the English language scripts sometimes, like, really try to, like, Americanize things in a way that's really starting to put me off a little bit.
Yeah, that is a common theme among most anime.
I don't know. I'm fairly happy with the Disney dubs. I can't think of something where I'm just like, oh, that's awful. Like, there's some points where I prefer the subtitled version. Like, I prefer the subtitled Princess Mononoke, for that matter. But for me, it's kind of a case of, like, I'm kind of either or. I think I can watch both.
I can tolerate the dubs. I enjoy the dubs. I actually watch the dubs more than I watch the subs. Just because if it's available, I can do other stuff while it's on. Whereas if it's subbed, I have to be sitting there and I can't have any distractions.
Yeah. I know, there's a case of, when it comes to dubs, I say this, like, when you're subtitling, there's sometimes going to be a degree of, there's going to be always something lost in translation.
Yeah.
And sometimes that subtitle is going to say something just goofy, because that's just what that translation is. And with the dub, you get a little bit more leeway because you can rewrite things. Like, I think Castle in the Sky is one where they did a lot of rewriting for, like, not really a lot perspective, but just, like, rewriting things for goofy jokes. And I think that works well for the movie that it is. But, like, I've also heard the argument that, like, watching something subtitled takes away a lot of the screen.
Yeah.
You're forced to look at a certain part of the screen all the time. You're kind of left.
Yeah, I am surprised to like hear myself say this because I am usually like I don't like watching movies with subtitles just because it's distracting from the visuals and that is really not my jam. But
especially with Miyazaki, because the visuals, oh my gosh. Howl's Moving Castle,
It's the prettiest thing you'll ever see.
I love it, but I honestly feel like they literally used it as an excuse to do so much, or to do landscape work.
We'll get to that.
Did you see that? Half of those landscapes were more detailed than anything else in the movie.
Well,
I think it was literally an excuse to do that.
I mean, yes, you're right.
Both me and Garrett have Howl's Moving Castle backgrounds on our phones and computers because it's just so gorgeous.
Well, that's just Miyazaki's style, isn't it? Like to do the backgrounds like super realistic, but the characters a little bit
kind of bubbly main characters.
Yeah.
But most of his movies that I've seen aren't as good looking and don't have as nice of landscapes as Howl's Moving Castle does. It's just phenomenal.
Well Mononoke is also just jaw-dropping to look at, but
when you're not kind of repulsed by it, not because it's
jaw-dropping, but not always.
I think Reed wants to say something.
So what else did we watch this week?
Do we even have anything else?
Did we finish our thoughts on Princess Mononoke? We kind of veered off at a certain point.
Well, I know what John and I watched on this past week.
Was it the Globes?
No.
Oh.
We watched another contender, not La La Land, but Moonlight.
Oh yes. Yes, I would like to get your thoughts on this down on record.
Did we even talk about Mononoke?
I
feel like you just skipped over that.
I liked it a lot. It's very, very epic. It's interesting to see him doing something that big and grandiose, but we can talk about that maybe in a minute. Talk about Moonlight.
I think about Moonlight a lot. Since seeing it, I think like the images really stick in my mind. Like that character who is... I call it Killer of Sheep by way of Ozu, and like I know you guys haven't seen Ozu, but Ozu is a filmmaker who makes kind of not really goofy movies, but kind of slice of life movies that are really colorful and really full of humanity. And it's a case like this is a movie where the sort of a lack of development is text, yet there's also a strange form of how the sort of passivity of him is also changing him.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, his inability to really change, his inability to really grasp the world around him, has kind of forced him to become a product of that world. Mm-hmm. Which is like, especially clear in like when he meets with that old friend of his again. And like they are just one of which is trying to put his life back together. He's out of prison. He's got this job. He's happy and the main what's the main character's name?
Chiron.
Chiron. He's just become such a product of what he grew up around. Mm-hmm. Like that's fascinating to watch.
It's even more fascinating that by the third act of the film he imitates the guy he followed in the first act quite a bit.
Like it's also like you can say a lot about like its treatment of poverty and ghetto and black neighborhoods, but it's also a movie full of a strange sort of humanity. Whereas like you have like the drug dealer father figure who is a drug dealer who is doing criminal acts, but is just so charismatic and just so welcoming to the main character. He's kind of intoxicating to be around. Like,
yeah.
And like the mother figure is really fascinating. This is a fascinating movie. Yeah. I hope this is something that sticks around.
And then even undertones of human sexuality along with this poverty is a very interesting mix.
One of the few portrayals of a gay man.
One of the few, yes.
One of the few, and that's
especially the gay black man.
The gay black man, yeah, that's almost unheard of. It's fascinating. Everyone should see it. I think objectively, it's probably the best movie of the year. I don't think you can really put another movie in my face and say it'd be better. Granted, I haven't seen Silence.
Juxtaposed with the quote unquote faux Technicolor candy of La La Land, this is a movie with
this kind of Technicolor. Like, it's also strangely colorful. Like, they go to the
Yeah.
tree, and it's like this brightly colored. The
Yeah.
ocean is just this blue, all the tree. There's lots of green everywhere.
Yeah,
It's bright, but the beach scene in the beginning has a bit more of like a grayscale, if I remember right.
I don't know. Like, I remember it being
It's
really
like grayscale.
I don't know.
Especially for the kind of movie
Yeah,
it is.
the colors in this movie are fascinating. I think the play it's based on was originally titled like In Moonlight Black Boys Look Blue. So the use of color in this movie is, I think, very
Yeah, like, it's
very striking.
I think there's also something to say that, like, recently I had to read an article about how, like, color film was developed to shoot white people.
Yeah.
So, like, when you shot black people, they kind of looked really strange and out of place.
Yeah.
So I think how this movie utilizes color to bring out its colored characters, I think that's something to be written about in future essays.
Cool. That's
That's a great movie.
Yes. It's probably definitely one of the more powerful movies I've ever seen.
yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, Moonlight's great. All right, so that's this week's installment of what we've been watching. Be sure to whatever.
It's a thing.
Whatever that you people do.
We watch movies.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. All right. What fun. All right, so let's dive into Hayao Miyazaki, the master of whatever it is.
Animation.
Yeah.
People call him the Walt Disney of Japan, but I think that does a disservice to Miyazaki. I think he's like in a league of his own.
Yeah.
I can't think of an animator that really compares to him.
Watching his movies is like such a unique experience, and you know I came to like kind of a revelation at some point. Like his movies are just like looking at just great works of art. Like his movies, and I don't mean this to be reductive at all. His movies are like paintings. You just have to like just look and listen and just be taken away by everything.
These movies are experiences.
Yeah.
In a way that like is very unique to this. Like the way they are animated is just something to be beheld, because like everything's always moving.
Yeah.
Like, especially like when he gets into like his like computer drawn stuff, where like they were using like Spirited Away and further, like everything's kind of moving up and down. Some things kind of look like they're melting. In the case, like his animation style is like really fascinating and really unique.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know too much about contemporary Japanese film or really Japanese film at all, but I mean, I don't know whether his like storytelling is super unique. I would imagine it is. Like his movies are really characterized by like kind of a free floating, almost dreamlike plot structure where there's almost no conflict sometimes, but like
sometimes it's just literally like, here's a character, this is what happens to them, go.
Yeah.
Japanese cinema is often very talky. It's often very dialogue driven. Like if you watch like a Takahata movie, like some of the other Ghibli directors, you'll find that they're also kind of dialogue driven at times. And Miyazaki is just so like visually bound. Like sometimes they're just gonna show you visuals and make you decide what to think, which I think personally, from my experience, is kind of unique to Japanese cinema, or unique in regards to Japanese cinema.
All right, so what do we want to talk about first here?
I have a lot more to say about The Wind Rises, so I think that should probably be second.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so let's...
I have far more to say about Howl's Moving Castle, so maybe this is a good thing.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to sort of keep that, because I've gone on the record about this movie already. Guys, up front, what do you think of Howl's Moving Castle?
Go ahead, Reed.
It's an art gallery that has plot.
Yeah.
And good characters also. Pretty simplistic there.
John, I think you were right. This movie's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Like there's I think I read like this was his like response to like the Iraq war, and like there's
that war subplot.
Yeah, and this war, he's like he wanted to make this kind of a big like anti-war message movie. that all gets kind of muddled with like everything else that's going on.
It's this kind of thing that starts off in the background that then becomes the climax, but then is sidelined in that same climax.
Yeah.
Like that ending is something we're gonna have to talk about.
And like the whole like central twist of the movie is like the main character is turned into like a 90-year-old woman.
Yeah.
For
that's just kind of the premise.
For some reason, like it's never really made clear why.
No, it is. It's made fairly clear why when it happens, because she stood up to the Witch of the Waste, and the Witch of the Waste ain't having that shit.
Well, that's like very. We're going to like
okay.
The Witch of the Waste is. Well, the Witch of the Waste is something to get up. Like that's a character I think is being also a very obvious Wizard of Oz reference. Like they literally animate her at times to look like she's melting.
Yeah.
But that's something else. But unlike just like a pure kind of emotional level, like that whole like turning her into an old woman, is kind of like that's something. Miyazaki does this a lot. It's kind of like externalizing internal emotions, where like this is a character who feels like very isolated. She feels very much like especially like when they have her talk to her sister who's dolled up in makeup, and like everyone's coming to her, and she's just there for little hats.
Okay.
And so she's very homely. And that's kind of just an externalization of that. Is that, and if anything, if you notice, like she becomes more lively when she becomes the old woman. She seems to be having more fun.
Yeah.
As the old woman.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, I'm on board with that. But still, like, I just want to get all this out of the way because, to be clear, I really liked this movie. All this being said,
yes.
I mean, like all the like magic and stuff is like pretty vaguely defined. Like you never really get a clear sense of like what's exactly is happening to Howl. But
it's all magic tied to emotion.
But it all somehow worked, and like I really liked the structure of this movie, where it's like just a bunch of kind of misfits thrown together, like forming this like surrogate family. In case you haven't realized from like stuff like Boogie Nights, I really like movies about like surrogate families.
This is a surrogate family. Like it's just like like Howl himself calls it a family several times. Like there's little. Like Sophie becomes kind of a mother figure. They eventually just call the Witch of the Waste grandma.
Yeah.
Like, there's like this dynamic that comes in. It's just really fun to watch.
I love because he does this in Spirited Away too, where like characters who like were adversaries just kind of become the main character's friends.
Yeah.
And I love that. And like the fire demon voiced by Billy Crystal, great character, great little wisecracking thing. Maybe does the wisecracking sidekick better than the cat in Kiki's Delivery Service, as much as it pains my heart to say that, because I love Phil Hartman.
It's a black cat. You know what that means to me.
Hey, no, look, I love Phil Hartman. You know what that means to me.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, this movie, it is gorgeous. It's
the prettiest thing he's ever made.
It's a lot of fun, and
I stick by my statement that I feel like this movie was either they made it as an excuse to make all those landscapes, or they made all those landscapes and were like, hey, let's do something with this, and threw together a coherent plot that actually worked.
I don't know, I've thought of this
plot instead of plot.
This movie doesn't have a plot. It has just a bunch of characters. That's what this movie has.
Yeah.
Well, I think like the landscape, they all look like these 19th century romantic era landscapes, and I think that's intentional because there's very much a like industrial age 19th century vibe. Like the part of the reason I love this movie so much is that like I really adore Miyazaki's steampunk vision. And this movie is just the ultimate in that, like, there are flying machines everywhere. Like, there's, like, the capital city they go to, the massive palace, is just this big orgy of 19th century city planning. And, like, the war that happens looks like something straight out of, it looks like steampunk World War I, and that's really fascinating. I know, I just adore
airships. the airships that the armies have are just phenomenal.
Oh my god.
Looking.
It's gorgeous.
Howl's castle never looks the same from scene to scene. And it's phenomenal. I love it. And you know me, I love steampunk almost more than John does.
Also, I think this is something watching Princess Mononoke and seeing like how curses and spells manifest in that movie, and then seeing that right next to Howl's Moving Castle, whereas like the magic is very vague, yet it's always tied to emotion. Like The Witcher, this is a movie also very much about facades. Like at the beginning, Howl is flamboyantly dressed with like blonde hair. And, like, the moment he is revealed to be the inner child he is when, like, his hair gets ruined. It's like, what are you doing? I can no longer go living if I can't be beautiful.
His temper tantrum is my favorite part of this movie.
Like, Sophie gets much more lively when she's turned into an old woman. The Witch of the Waste is a character that's, like, tried her best to disguise her age and to be this beautiful, what she thinks is a beautiful woman, but she's just failing, and it always looks like it's melting at the seams, and the turning point for that character is melting away her facade, somewhat literally.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating.
I think...
And also the visuals, how they represent all the magic and so forth, just fascinating. Like, the shooting stars are like these technicolor little people that run on water. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I think Miyazaki, like always, when he makes a movie, just kind of has, like, a bunch of ideas bouncing around, and he's just like, how can I just put these all into one thing, and somehow it always just ends up as just a beautiful work of art. And I'm kind of surprised how much I enjoyed this movie, because...
Well, I was kind of worried because I thought you would just be struck by just how, like, scattershot it is.
I talk about this a lot. Like, I usually primarily judge movies on a storytelling level. Like, that's my principal concern. And the storytelling in this movie is just not really there.
Yeah.
No, it's there, but it's just like it's kind of like I think I said this before. It's an entire season of television crammed into 2 hours.
But
whereas like the beats happen, but it just happens so quickly. It's kind of hard to really sit on it and really think about it.
But I think Miyazaki is like one area where I finally learned to look past that and just like experience like the power of not even just animated cinema, of cinema,
Well, his characters are just so well drawn. Like, everyone has, like, this really unique personality. Like
experience the Miyazaki.
Like, I think Sophie might be one of his best main characters. I think that's a character that's just so full of life, and she... I love seeing her passivity go from this sort of passive person to someone who just hijacks the plot and becomes this dominant force in this surrogate family. Like, that's really fascinating. It also gives us the scene where her mother comes and sees Sophie in old form, and we have, like, the mother looking much younger than her daughter, and that's really fascinating to look at.
And yet somehow just looking, like, much more freakish in a weird way.
Yes. Also, like, sometimes some of those close-up, like, he animates some people just to look like monsters.
Yeah.
They have this, like, big holes where their eyes should be.
I love the just casual appearance of her sister in the first 10 minutes, and then the never getting mentioned again.
Well, she's just there for contrast. She's just like, look how pretty she is. Look how homely Sophie is. Goodbye. That's all that's for. Like, that she has no place, especially considering like how many characters we accumulate throughout this movie. There was no place for her elsewhere.
And
also, I will say, I do want to talk about the ending. Because I think, here's the thing, this might be, I don't think it's his best movie. I think something like maybe Spirited Away is overall his best movie. But I think the ending is kind of where things unravel a bit. Because this is a movie, because like, I think like, I was really on board with the movie until like there was a point where like Sophie goes into this like magic, none of this explained, it's just kind of that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, it goes into Howl's past or something like that.
It goes into Howl's past. I think this is honestly one of the best scenes Miyazaki's ever done. I think this is some of Joe Hisashi's best score. And she goes in like this haunting dreamscape where all these shooting stars are coming down, and we see the moment where Howl exchanges his heart to the demon, Calcifer. And it's like this really dreamlike and epic. But then she leaves that. And then it's just kind of like this roller coaster of how do we resolve this thing? We got all these loose ends. Fuck, go. All right. Okay, like they can do their thing over there. Okay, we're gonna get this prince who's gonna end the war.
That came out of fucking nowhere when the scarecrow turns into a prince. And
there's like this offhand piece of dialogue at the beginning, but that doesn't excuse any of it, where he just shows up and says, "Hey, I'm here to resolve your plot."
That came out of nowhere, and I'd forgotten about it.
The scarecrow, and then turns into a
like
prince.
Sophie gives him a kiss, and then he turns into a prince, and it's like, oh, it's the when your true love kisses you, you turn back spell or some shit like that. And I'm like, wait, what?
I think the closest we're going to talk about when Miyazaki does bittersweet, but I think he might have the Spielberg issue, where he always needs a happy ending. But like in something like Spirited Away, that happy ending really works, and here it kind of is like, where did this come from? Like,
yeah,
it's a movie that has a lot of dangling plot threads, and it just kind of like very quickly ties them together, and it kind of works because we do get all the resolutions we need. But it's just so fast. It's just kind of like, oh, what did I just see?
Yeah.
I mean, it ties loose ends up together, but it's more like, it's more like putting your headphones into a vodka and then pulling them out and then seeing their big nice wad. It's sort of like that.
Do we have like? I'm gonna say this as far as I think this is by far his most fascinating. I think it's got like the most ideas in it. I think it's the most realized steampunk world he's ever built. I think it has some of the most fascinating musings on magic he's done, especially for a director who's done a lot of.
The magic, I will agree with you. Steampunk world, I like Castle in the Sky better.
Okay, that's a close second for me. I'm not going to deny the effectiveness of the steampunk world in Castle in the Sky.
I really, really like the world in Castle in the Sky.
I don't know. I think like Howl's Castle alone is just this masterpiece of a creation.
Solo pieces, Howl's Castle by far is the best steampunk thing. Yeah. Overall world, I would say Castle in the Sky is better.
I just adore the central bit of like, I know it's kind of like a love story, but it's one that's kind of surprising and grows slowly, whereas we have Howl the child and Sophie the grandma, and through each other they learn to kind of meet in the middle and grow each other as people.
Yeah.
Hackney, some people might say hackney, but god damn it, that's just a gorgeous thing to watch on screen.
Love stories.
My only real complaint with this movie is the fucking fluctuation of Sophie's age throughout the entire fucking thing after she got cursed.
Okay.
Because she's like 90 for parts of it, and then as soon as she starts staying at Howl's Castle, she just fluctuates from anywhere to how old she was before the curse, back up to 90, and everywhere in the middle. And it's just like, oh my god, make up your mind.
Well, I think that's kind of motivated by like her falling in love with Howl. I mean,
and her growing as a person. Like, oftentimes when she turns back into an old grandma, it's often prefaced with her saying like, oh, I'm not pretty, or oh, I'm just this old thing, I don't deserve anything. Like, her confidence and her self-esteem is directly tied to how she looks at any given time, and like, and as she grows to be like the active member who is holding the surrogate family together, the younger she looks.
The Journey to Self-Actualization, the movie.
Yes, it's beautiful.
I do see that, John. I see exactly where you're coming from. But it still drives me up a wall.
Somebody had to explain that to me. Don't worry, that's not something that's made very clear in the movie. And this is the ultimate in Miyazaki not explaining himself.
I actually picked up on that, but but I was kind of like,
It
no,
just drove you nuts
that
and
can't
made you run away.
possibly be it. That can't possibly be the reasoning for it.
I think I got something. It's magic, Garrett. It's magic.
It's magic. I mean, it's, God,
Which is lazy.
John, well, okay, just to kind of wrap things up here, with this anyway. Actually, just today, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and her favorite movie of all time is Spirited Away, and she just read the book that Howl's Moving Castle is based on, and she now hates, yeah, something like that, and she now hates the movie because apparently she said the book is just like so much more fully realized, but man, I don't know how anybody could hate this movie.
Well, I can see you. Some people go into it and just like, oh, it's a mess. Like plot points are coming out of everywhere. Oh my God, there's so much. Like honestly, the first time I watched it, I wasn't fully on board with it. It really just, the first time I watched it, I just said, oh my God, this is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen, but it's a mess. Second time I watched it, I started picking up on all the things that are throughout it, and now I've kind of come to the realization that this is my favorite Miyazaki movie. Like I think that it's the prettiest thing he's ever done. It's
John, this might be my favorite too. I was not expecting to say that, but the more I think about it, you know, it's, yeah. I don't know what it turned
out so much better than I could ever have dreamed.
I don't know what it is with me and surrogate families, but there it is.
It's a very lovable surrogate. Like all of Miyazaki's characters are just full of humanity. Reed, you were going to say something?
Oh, I'd like to confess. This is not one of my favorite Miyazaki films.
I get it. Believe me, like, I completely get why people wouldn't like it.
This is my favorite visual film. But story-wise, no.
Fair point. I just think I know what I'm getting with Miyazaki at this point, which is a story that's maybe not going to satisfy me, but visuals and just characters and a feeling that will absolutely make up for it.
Good characters can save your movie.
That is,
like,
yeah.
If your movie's a plot mess-wise but has really well-drawn characters, that's always going to even out.
Wait. A plot mess-wise? Don't you mean a mess plot-wise?
Don't taunt me, Reed. Don't taunt me, Warner.
or what's not known as a plot?
I was just gonna let that slide, but whatever. All right.
I'm filled with a lot of passion right now. I love this. This might be one of my favorite movies. I think Miyazaki is one of the greatest filmmakers
John,
ever put on this.
You never have to apologize for that.
Well, it's hard because like every one of the other movies I have my favorites list, I think are perfect, and this is one of the few that I think is still kind of a mess fundamentally. And also, this might be kind of my. I guess I have a similar relationship to this as I do to Life Aquatic. As like overall, this might not be his best, but like, God, there's just some. It's got some like the highest Miyazaki moments you'll ever see. And just some of the most fascinating ideas.
Well, I don't want to turn this into the video store show, but Life Aquatic isn't that good. But let's move on. Okay.
We're not here to talk about Wes Anderson. Moving on.
The Wind Rises.
His last movie.
Miyazaki's final completed feature, for now anyway. Apparently he's retired.
I think that's gonna hold up. There's not really any news on it. It's been 4 years now.
I think I read he was developing something new, but I don't know.
Is he? Yes.
This came out.
When did this one come out?
2013, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yes, he is working on a new picture, from what I have heard.
I know he's working on a short film. And
of course, he's working on like short film.
I think I heard he was working on a feature, but I'm not 100% on that.
I think he's doing a feature.
All right, but let's talk about The Wind Rises, shall we?
A kind of strange movie for me.
It is. It's a departure from like his usual stuff in that it's based on a true story. It's set in a relatively real world.
It's Japan. Oh, Reed, you were gonna say something?
Well, true to some degree. I mean, so
Are you going to say Miyazaki took artistic liberties in his animated film about the guy who designed the Japanese fighter plane?
fuck yeah, he did. Everything of his personal life was either switched or just fabricated.
Okay, well,
Was switched
Reed,
and fabricated.
based on,
That's okay.
inspired by, I am solidly in the camp that movies never need to adhere to 100% historical accuracy.
I love the phrase, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah.
I love that phrase.
Unless it is portraying itself as a flat-out documentary, 100% true story.
Well,
If you're a
obviously.
documentary, you can't falsify things. That just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But, so this movie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, in the English version anyway, stars as Jiro, what's his last name?
The guy who designed the Japanese Zero.
Yeah, so,
Or Shoki. No.
Goddamn Japanese names.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so Jiro designs airplanes for Mitsubishi. Ends up designing a Japanese fighter plane that is used in World War II. And let's address the elephant in the room first, shall we? This is a movie where the hero, the very sympathetic hero, is
The very kind, heroic hero.
is designing planes that are used by the Axis powers in World War II.
He is designing planes that would be used in such events as the rape of Nanking and otherwise.
This is the guy that designed the planes that destroyed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941.
Yes.
And
He
a
is
whole
the-
lot of other countries.
He is basically the reason that the U.S. got involved in World War II.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but
I wouldn't go that far, but
I would, because if they didn't have proper fighter jets, they wouldn't have had a effective attack. Or not
Well,
fighter jets, fighters. If they did
Not
not
a
have,
history podcast.
well, it's a
if
part
they
well,
did not have the proper fighters, they would not have been able to successfully pull off that attack.
it's not
Don't
what
get
you
the
have.
history bat on a movie podcast.
okay.
Do not get baited into this.
It's not what you have. It's how you use it. Thank you very much. But anyways,
My point was, none of that really matters because the story is told well enough, and it is addressed briefly, but it is addressed.
I'd argue it's the spine of the movie.
Yeah, and the kind of his whole thing is like he views airplanes as works of art that he wants to design and bring into the world, and I'm sure he is not like sympathetic to the Japanese like imperial cause, I would say, and
No.
at least as he's portrayed in this. And I think it's a very effective story, just of an artist who is living in a world whose primary concern is how that art can be exploited.
Well, I think it's a movie that every once in a while will have like this great dream of airplane, like Miyazaki has this very romantic vision of designing planes, and he views them the same way as making art. And like there's like this opening dream sequence that is him
I
riding
love the dream
this weird
sequences.
plane.
Oh my god, the dream sequences were so wonderful.
they're so well done.
One thing I noticed, and I just wanted to point this out, it seems like most of the plane sound effects are done
Yes.
verbally.
Yes.
Like it's a person like standing in a microphone going like,
Yes. I love that so much.
I'm gonna admit, that bothered me the first time I realized it, and then I'm just like,
That's
you know
adorable.
what? This is adorable.
That's adorable. Who else would do that? Decide like, no, we're not going to use plain sound. I want you to blow into the microphone. Like, I love that.
And
I
who
will say, like,
else would get away with it?
I think this movie is built on like an essential core of bittersweetness.
yeah,
Like he wants to design airplanes, but the reality of what he's building will be used for war looms over everything. Like in the first, I can't remember which dream sequence it is, but like he keeps meeting with like this Italian plane designer, Caproni, who is that character is infectious.
Yes.
So like he says, like, do you want a world with pyramids or without pyramids? With like the assumption like the pyramids were something that were built using slave labor, yet are these great monuments to mankind. And it's like, and he says like, I prefer a world with pyramids. I will. The art of plane building is more important than what its use is, and that's a road that leads him into dangerous territory.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't shy away from that.
I would be very disappointed if it did shy away from it,
Well,
knowing that this is Miyazaki.
that would also be problematic as fuck.
Well, Miyazaki is a person who is very clear-eyed about violence. Like his movies are always are often like these reflections of violence. Like we forgot to mention this in Howl's Moving Castle. There's like the big plot point of how violence changes you physically and how you cannot recover from that. And in this, it's a case of like no character on screen participates in violence, but they are in an indirect way getting involved with this. Like the Werner Herzog character with these terrifying gray eyes and saying like, the Nazis are a bunch of hoodlums. Japan will blow up. Germany will blow up. And like this, which is kind of like in this like this really romantic love story, he is there to say like, what you are doing will have consequences. This will all end.
Yeah, it's so interesting. There's as always, there's a lot of just different things going on in this movie. It might seem strange at first, like that he would choose to make this his final film, but by the end of it, I think it really makes sense.
He's a guy who really admires like mechanics and like he adores planes and aircraft and that sort of thing. And this is like it's a movie about designing those, and he's gonna love that.
Well,
it's also very much like the gears and like they show you like diagrams of what they're building.
Well, even beyond that, I think like the love story in this movie, which is very much I think where a lot of the kind of the bittersweetness comes from, the idea that like an artist is only creative for 10 years, it's like this guy.
There's a lot of truth to that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't agree that that's true all the time. I mean, certainly
Some people just become obsolete.
Certainly it's not like literally true, but like, artists have their time and sometimes artists just like peter out and yeah, you're right, John, they become obsolete.
That's for Coppola.
Yeah. There's very, very few filmmakers who have managed to both retain their style and adapt to the times. Like Scorsese is one of the only ones I could think of.
Yeah, Spielberg.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this guy, meaning Miyazaki, like knew, it was his time to move on, to be like, hey, this is the work I want to leave behind and to be remembered by. Doing that much more elegantly than Quentin Tarantino, although the message is somewhat similar.
It's a kind of proverbial passing of the torch.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
This is my swan song.
That's actually probably the best way to describe it, because he did leave the studio behind, and the studio is still active, but he has not released anything through the studio. The studio hasn't done much since then. I don't think so anyway. I don't know of anything.
I
really.
think they're putting out another movie soon, if it's not out already, but
I think they've had one movie since then that I've seen somewhere, but I don't remember what it was.
Is that the Red Turtle?
yeah. Well,
Maybe?
I haven't heard very much about the Red Turtle.
That's the one I was thinking of.
I think there was one in there that he didn't have anything to do with, that they released something about small people that live in our houses or something. Something a bit out there.
Arrietty?
Maybe.
All right, well, that was before The Wind Rises. But
Was it?
Studio Ghibli is like this fascinating meritocracy where people do films in kind of the Miyazaki style, but Miyazaki himself is such a master and such an artist that it's kind of like an act of futility, whereas like people try their hardest, but like there's always this tangible sense of, God, I wish it was Miyazaki who did this. with all the rest of the Ghibli movies.
Yeah,
I,
there is, but
I will say that I think this movie might have my single favorite Miyazaki image. It might have my favorite ending of his. Whereas, like, we go from, like, this field of wreckage and destroyed planes to, like, this field of green, and you look up in the sky, and you see, like, this beautiful horizon full of zeros. Just zeros just flying into oblivion. Like,
which is
the sign,
a
like...
fantastic image, as long as you don't think about the fact that that's what it looked like going away from Pearl Harbor.
What is it?
Thanks for
Very
that.
clear right about that. Like, this movie is about, like, this man was a tool of war, knowingly or not.
Yeah.
This man was partially responsible for the death of millions. He was an active member of the Japanese war effort.
And
The movie doesn't ignore that.
and it was also mentioned that I think Jiro said that none of those planes ever came back.
They didn't come back to the mainland. They were used in the island fighting in the Pacific.
Look, I mean, okay, you could probably argue that the movie, like, doesn't lean into that stuff maybe as much as it should,
No,
but
Hero is very much a hero.
but at the same time, it's like, you don't want to get bogged down by that, you know? And yes, it's a little bit problematic, but...
The plane creation in this movie is gorgeous.
And I think the fact that they do address it, I think makes it work. And, you know, this movie's just really just a beautiful thing. You know, I look at it as like a two-sided love story about, like, this man's love affair both with planes and with this woman, and both of them are wonderful.
The love story with his wife. Oh, that hurt.
And just the idea that, like, you know, you need to live. You know, that's like the whole thing of the movie that opens with that quote, you know, the wind rises, we must not forget to live. And I think this movie's just a beautiful thing. It's very, maybe not his most ambitious or his most, you know, totally satisfying movie, but it is a...
I think it's fairly ambitious. Like, this is really uncharted Miyazaki territory. This is something Miyazaki's movies typically have, like the big happy ending, and like everyone's happy, and everyone gets what they want, everyone gets resolution. This is a movie built on like a core of bittersweetness. Like, the thing he loves, designing planes, is used to kill millions. The woman he marries will die of tuberculosis. Yeah. There's like everything he does ends in tragedy, and as good of a person he is presented as in the movie, he never does anything to avoid those things. He knows these things going forward, and yet he will take the experience, like the fleeting glimpse of life.
Yeah.
Knowing tragedy will come, and that's fascinating.
His 10 years in the sun, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
He's looking for his 10 years in the sun. Very much so.
The stuff with his wife just broke my heart a little bit.
Okay, yes.
I loved that, but it hurt.
I think probably one of the more, you know, punch in the face moments is when Jiro's boss calls him and reads the telegraph and then butchers the word hemorrhage, and then it cuts to one of her paintings, and then blood spatters, and then
it's kind of shocking.
There's
spasms. Like, you just don't expect that coming from like a Miyazaki movie, and there it is. It's
when I first saw that.
And then the hint at the wedding night sex.
Hey, man.
Hey, that's the thing.
Be mature
I
here.
know it's a thing. I know it's a thing, but I didn't expect it from a Miyazaki film.
I guess the movies are kind of sexless.
Anyways.
How did we end up here? I don't know. Okay, The Wind Rises. I really like it. Quite
It's
an interesting...
Maybe,
like, one of your favorite ever?
I think this is tied with Porco Rosso as my favorite Miyazaki movie.
You really love Porco Rosso, and good on you. Good on you.
It's the planes, man. It's the planes.
It must be the
He
point.
loves planes. Give the man his planes.
This is interesting. See, John has trains. Reed has planes. I really like boats myself.
And I like spaceships.
What are some great boat movies. We're gonna have to get on this.
Jaws?
Titanic.
No, not Titanic, thank you. Suffice it... Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Wait, what?
Unless you were closing it, in which case I have something to say before you close it.
Go ahead, then.
Reed mentioned Jiro's boss. I fucking love that guy. This midget boss, I love him. He is the epitome of, do your job. I hate you, but really I'm a big softie that will do anything for my people.
Well, that's a Miyazaki thing. Is like he will present you characters that are kind of thorny, but then reveal them to just be complete softies. Like the Boiler Man in Spirited Away is like starts off like kind of gruff. It's like, don't help them. Like I have my son, I have all the workers I need, but then just completely sticks his neck out for Sen right there. Then. Like, that's like a Miyazaki thing, and I love it. All his characters are just really nice and full of humanity.
I just love this guy. He's first day on the job. Oh, you gotta go get this done. You needed to have this done a month ago when you should have been here rather than showing up now. And then later on, oh, he's gonna travel the world by himself because he needs to go see all these things. But you're gonna get your ass back here and you're gonna work. And oh, the secret police are looking for you, but I'm not going to give you up because you need to work.
Like the kind of comic...
Oh, yeah.
Like the kind of him being hunted by the secret police is kind of played comically in a really interesting way.
Is it?
Kind of.
Maybe.
Him hiding from the secret police is the same scene where they find out he's married and they just start bursting into laughter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Married? I thought you married an airplane.
Yeah. All right. Well, suffice it to say, we all really like this movie.
We all really like anything Studio Ghibli. Or almost anything, anyway.
Anything Miyazaki related. I still haven't seen Ponyo.
I haven't either.
That's one, like, people call, like, Howl's Moving Castle some of his worst, but I think far more people are just kind of with Ponyo. So that's something I'm going to push down the curve.
I think we need to make a list of all the ones we've watched for this podcast.
Like, anytime we need a break, we'll just pull it out.
Anytime we need a break, just, okay, well, we haven't watched this one and this one. Let's do those for a week.
I'll add a section to the list.
Yes.
All right. So, well, nothing. It's a beautiful swan song for Miyazaki, and it's a beautiful film. I really don't have much else to say.
I think it's one of his more interesting. I think it's kind of hard to say like where it ranks amongst his because like, it is really different from his other stuff.
It's hard to rank his movies at all.
Yeah, it was a really interesting and really good final film because it showed, oh hey, I don't have to be out in these fantastic worlds. I can do something semi-realistic as well.
Yeah, and yet it's still really fantastical
and it's really amazingly well done.
So. I'd say one of my favorite parts about this movie is the score.
Oh, it's a great score.
Gorgeous.
The
score is gorgeous. I think he did.
Because it seems like Joe Hisashi just seems to be getting better and better. Like I don't know if he's still making scores, but like, God, I love the soundtrack for The Wind Rises.
Yeah, he did. He did.
That's just haunting melodies. But I think we finally need to put a pin in this conversation now.
Yeah, and then I don't know, because after seeing The Wind Rises a second time, I'm sort of thinking, you know what? I think this has better visuals than Howl's Moving Castle.
It's got my favorite image, but I think Howl's Moving Castle is more consistent. But like, regardless, that's going into territory I don't want to go into.
Okay.
All right. That's our thoughts on these particular Miyazaki films.
Yes.
I won't say our thoughts on Miyazaki because I'm sure this is a well we are going to return to at some point.
Our views on Miyazaki are constantly evolving, and for the better.
Yeah.
Miyazaki Week, part 1 of fuck knows how many part series.
Until we run out of them. Until we run out.
All right. So what do we want to watch next week?
Inventors Week.
Is it that time? Well, all right. Let's do it.
we're early in the semester. We're not going to get any other chance.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like if we're going to do this, it better be now. And I really want to see. Wings of Desire.
Oh, and it's a long weekend, so.
There you go. It's good. Unless you had like some idea you were really.
No, I had nothing in mind. So, all right, let's do it. Wim Wenders, Wings of Desire, Paris, Texas. Getting some German films up in here.
Yep. Was Paris, Texas a German production?
I think it's in English. I mean, Wim Wenders directed it. I think it's in English, but I think it was a German production.
Okay, so like it's kind of European productions. It's kind of
it's a little hazy. I think the Garretts are a little caught off guard by this.
Okay, the Wings of I'm going to explain this to them. I'm going to explain Wings of Desire. You can explain Paris, Texas. Wings of Desire, originally called Der Himmel über Berlin, is a art house piece about about an angel played by Bruno Ganz, famously known for playing Hitler. He did that later.
Oh yeah.
And he at one point sees like a trapeze artist, and he says, "I want to be human. I want to fall from the angel, experience life." And the movie's about that. So it's also kind of like a fascinating document of like Berlin right before the wall went down.
Yeah.
So, like that's if you want some history, it's certainly there.
And then Paris, Texas stars the great character actor Harry Dean Stanton, who you may know from his brief appearance in The Avengers. This movie starts with him wandering around the desert and then apparently becomes something else entirely. I'm not 100% sure. I'm hoping this movie will surprise me, and I think it probably will. So
I have high hopes.
Yeah, well, anyone would after listening to the Vidiots talk about it. Oh, yeah. So Wim Wenders Week coming your way.
Some more foreign film.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about this. My goal with this podcast going into the new year was to watch more foreign films. Apologies to those of us who may not like foreign films, which...
Oh, forgot. These cultured hack frauds can get more out of it.
Essentially what I want to do, I'll have to look into this to see if it's even worth it, is do films done by a Turkish-German director called Fatih Akin.
Never heard of him.
What has he done?
He has done movies no one has probably ever heard of, but I have seen one of them called Imuli. It's a slapstick romantic comedy.
Well, that sounds fun.
Maybe we'll put that on the list. Like, I am fully on board with the Hack Fraud Show turning into a foreign film podcast for at least temporarily.
All right. Well, judging by Warner's expression, he's less happy about that. But we will be back.
I am looking for something to do or to give John as revenge for 2 weeks in a row giving us something related to the Axis powers.
None of these are related. The Wim Wenders movies are not related to the Nazis, Warner.
I have had the idea for a podcast, which is I would call it Axis versus Allied, where Warner just shows me anime and we just get my reaction.
But you're making us watch a German film starring somebody that is renowned for playing Hitler. That's just some. He got memed for that. He's not renowned for that. He's renowned for a lot of things. He's very well decorated.
Did he play Hitler in Inglourious Basterds?
No. Oh, have you heard of I'm sure you've seen. Do you know like the scene where people keep putting different subtitles where it's like Hitler explodes at his generals?
Oh, okay.
That's Bruno Ganz, and that movie's called Downfall.
Okay. All right.
And then The Wind Rises was a.
Well, yes.
Basically about Japan. So, well, it was about Japan.
The Japanese are people too.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's an Axis power.
All right, we've had enough digressions.
You have done something with an Axis power. I will have revenge.
Okay.
I see.
Good luck with that. We will see how Warner's Revenge turns out when we come back. Goodbye. Rock and roll. Oh, my.
That was a terrifying sound, Reed.
He always has his microphone in his mouth because it doesn't work. Because it doesn't work. That's the issue.
Jesus Christ. Reed, if you're not talking, don't put it that close to your mouth.
Fine. Reed's microphone and audio quality has been an ongoing conflict in this podcast.
Did he get struck by lightning, or did he put
There's a microphone in his mouth. Well, I am a bureaucrat. I will not sleep. I wear that on my sleep proudly. Continued, Mr. Aquilina.